Good to see each and every one of you here this morning. Paul said that everything that was written in the past was written to teach us so that through the endurance taught in the Scriptures and the hope they provide, and the encouragement they provide, we might have hope. And so we're looking at the past. We're looking at the example of Job, and he encourages us because of his perseverance. And we see that he suffered a great deal, a great loss. And yet, he was able to persevere. And he suffered not because of anything bad that he did, the harm that he might have caused, a sin, but because of his goodness and his good character. Jesus said, "Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely accuse you of all harm." It wasn't harm. They accuse you of persecuting and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Because of me. Rejoice and be glad. For great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. And so today we're going to look at the so-called friends. But unfortunately, his friends were like an oxymoron. Well, what in the world's an oxymoron? Samuel Goldwyn was known for his oxymoron logic. That is a combination of contradictory words. An oral contract isn't worth the paper it's written on. That's an oxymoron. In 2 words, impossible. Or he said this, true, I've been a long time making up my mind, but now I'm giving you a definite answer. I won't say yes and I won't say no, but I'm giving you a definite maybe. That's an oxymoron. Well, in a sense, Job's friends were oxymoronic, if there's such a word. Friends who came to comfort. And did they comfort Job? Did they? Then Job answered, I have heard many such things. Sorry comforters are you all. What was their purpose in coming? They stated it. It's stated that when Job's 3 friends, Eliphaz, the Temanite, Bildad, the Shuhite, and Zophar, the Naamanite, heard about all the troubles that had come upon him, they set out from their homes and met together by agreement to go and look, sympathize with him, and comfort him. And when they saw him from a distance, they couldn't hardly recognize him because of all the problems that he was facing physically, much less everything that he's lost already. How long will you say such things? Your words are a blustering wind. They came to sympathize with and comfort him. And does Job feel like that is what they've been doing? After being there for 7 days, sitting in silence, I think that was the time they were comforting him. For 7 days sitting in silence, but when they opened their mouths, it was a different story. Eliphaz hears Job speak, and then Eliphaz replies, and then Job answers. And then Bildad, he has to get his so-called comforting words in next. And here is what he said. This is what he said. This is Bildad. Job's been speaking. He said, how long will you say such things? Your words are a blustering wind. Or in other words, you're a windbag. In modern terms, that's what it would be. And if you were suffering, would you want to hear words like that from a friend? No. Then Eliphaz starts his next speech by saying, would a wise man answer with empty notions and fill his belly with a hot east wind? The east wind came from the Arabian desert. And it was a dreaded wind that was very hot and dusty. And in other words, what Eliphaz said, if you're truly wise, Would you sound so much like a windbag belching hot air? If you heard these words, would you feel comforted and realize these guys are really here to sympathize with me? Would you come to that conclusion? The answer is an obvious no. Hippocrates, the 4th century BC doctor, said that wherever the art of medicine is loved, there is also a love of humanity. Walking is man's best medicine. Make a habit of 2 things: to help, or at least to do no harm. Cure sometimes, treat often, and comfort always is what he said, Hippocrates. And is that what Job's friends are doing? Comforting always? As the saying goes, with friends like these, who needs enemies? Who needs enemies? And so you can see that one of the things Bildad is his theme has to do with traditions. And he is arguing that you can just look at all the experiences, the accumulated experience of people, and you will find that you're not innocent because of all the suffering you're going through. That's what tradition teaches us. That's what experience teaches us. Ask the former generations and find out what their fathers learned. For we were born only yesterday and know nothing, and our days on earth are but a shadow. Will they not instruct you and tell you? Will they not bring forth words from their understanding? Bildad had fallen into the tradition trap, accepting the thing as true because past generations accepted it as true without careful investigation. The basic idea is that you reap what you sow with no exceptions. And so is Job really reaping what he's sown? No. Life is brief, Bildad is saying. And we can learn from the past. We can look at all the past generations. Life is indeed short, and we can learn from the past. But what was Job to do with his integrity? He knows he has no secret sin. What's he to do with that? Well, the integrity of the upright guides them. The unfaithful are destroyed by the duplicity. And whenever you look at these proverbs, it's like, yeah, you're looking from the past generations and what happens in them. It's accumulated. It's directed by God. This is His wisdom. And we see it put down for us to read. And so here's one of the integrity of the upright guides them. But we know he's a man of integrity. He's blameless. He's upright. What's he to do with his integrity? Does he go ahead and admit, yeah, it's because I've sinned? No. He doesn't have any secret sin. Does God pervert justice? Does Almighty pervert what is right? Surely God does not reject a blameless man or strengthen the hands of evildoers. So says Bildad. Is that comforting? Surely God does not reject a blameless man or strengthen the hands of evildoers. Well, you're rejected. You've lost everything. Everything's been taken away from you. Are you really blameless? Or are you part of the hands of the evildoers? You must be an evildoer, according to Bildad. And then notice his crass, insensitive, and brutish he is with a man who is brokenhearted over the loss of his children. Now listen to this. Does this seem sympathizing and comforting? One of the things that we can learn from these guys, don't be like them. Don't be like them. Your children obviously sinned against him, so their punishment was well deserved. He's lost all of his 10 children. And he comes out with a brutal statement like that. Now do you believe he's got Job's attention? Oh yes, he's got Job's attention. Most people would be ready to lash out and sock that guy in the face. Are they pleasant, comforting words? Have you heard that? Haven't heard any yet. We find that in Proverbs 16:21, the wise of heart are called discerning, and pleasant words promote instruction. There's not been anything pleasant there to promote any instruction. But if you He doesn't stop. But if you will look to God and plead with the Almighty, if you are pure and upright, even now He will rouse Himself on your behalf and restore you to your rightful place. Your beginnings will seem humble. So prosperous will your future be. In other words, Job, you need to repent. After Bildad, Zophar thinks it's his turn to comfort. At least they're oxymoron type of comfort. He uses common sense. Zophar's common sense is the common sense of someone that believes that there couldn't be any other reason for this. Zophar's attitude is like a bull in a china closet. When it comes to comforting Job, there's no sympathy. There's no sense of trying to truly understand and comfort. In his whole argument, he's saying to Job that he's guilty, ignorant, and sinful. And he's been waiting his turn to talk, and starts with 4 questions. Rhetorical questions. He doesn't expect an answer. But here are these rhetorical questions. Are all these words to go unanswered? His words. Job's. Is this talker to be vindicated? Will your idle talk reduce men to silence? No, he's speaking, isn't he? Will no one rebuke you when you mock? Well, Zophar thinks he's quoting Job when he says, you say to God, my beliefs are flawless and I am pure in your sight. Oh, how I wish that God would speak, that He would open His lips against you. But Job never said that. He's misquoting Job. Job said, teach me, and I will be quiet. Show me where I have been wrong. But now be so kind as to look at me. Would I lie to your face? Zophar is being rude, and he's misquoting Job 2. Job's attitude is different. And when he answers Eliphaz, he says, teach me and I will be quiet. Zophar says this, know this, God has even forgot some of your sin. In other words, he's saying that Job should be glad that he's gotten off so lightly by receiving a smaller dose of suffering than he deserved. He's lost everything he possesses. He's lost his 10 children. He's lost his health. He feels alienated from God now. And it's like he's saying, you've received a lighter portion of a small dose of suffering. You deserve more, but you've received a smaller dose. Oh, really? Then notice how brutally frank he is with Job when he says, an idiot will become intelligent when the foal of a wild donkey is born a man. An idiot? Now, it could be, you could use a different word, empty-headed. By implication, Zophar is saying to Job that he is an empty-headed idiot. And again, is this man being sympathetic and comforting? The last things Job needs in his pitiful and grieving state were hard, cold, callous, demeaning sermons. That's the last thing he needed. But that's what Job is getting from his so-called friends. And then the last one here is Eliphaz. He seems to be the oldest. And he speaks from his own personal experience. Because he says several times over, I have seen. And what do you know that we don't know? What insights do you have that we don't have? Can you believe that? Eliphaz thinks he understands everything about what Job is going through. And he is standing there. He has traveled many miles in his health, and he's standing there speaking to Job, who is miserably sick. What do you know that we don't know? What insights do you have that we don't have? Was that comforting? Does he realize how his argument sounds to Job? How ridiculous it is? Yes, it is true that people reap what they sow. And that's one of the big reasons for hardships in life. It's because of their own actions, their own choices, and the consequences that come from them. But is that the only reason? Are there some unexplained reasons? Could it be that they're doing good? And that is why they are upset. Well, that was the case with Job. Job's friends concluded that what was happening to him was because of some secret sin or sins that he had committed. He couldn't be suffering so much and not be guilty. And the first answer seems to be the only reason Job's friends have. You reap what you sow. And of course that's true, as I've mentioned. But we find in Job's case, it can be unexplained to them. And Job doesn't even realize it because of his compassion and his upright person that he was and how he helped people. But they don't realize that and that is the reason why he's suffering. And at this point, Job doesn't realize that either. Can you think of, there you are, or someone is that knows how to swim, decides to get out in a nice little lake and do a little bit of swimming before sunset. He gets out there and is swimming and enjoying the time leisurely, swimming, a few hundred yards offshore. And then this freak evening fog comes across the water. And suddenly he can see nothing. No horizon, no objects, no landmarks, no light. The sun's still up. He can't see that because the fog diffused all the light. He couldn't even make out the direction of the setting sun. He couldn't see it. For 30 minutes, he's splashing around in panic. And then he heard a faint voice calling from the shore. This is a sensation of losses that man had. That is what Job was experiencing. And we know that the one assailing him is Satan, not God. Peter describes him as a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Be self-controlled and alert. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith. And that's what Job did. Right in the middle of this terrible pain and grief, Job gives himself, it certainly wasn't his friends, a ray of sunshine breaking through the darkness of sorrow with his declaration of a personal conviction. I know that my Redeemer lives and that in the end he will stand upon the earth. He knows God is alive and he believes God will set him free from his suffering. There should have been a ray of hope and encouragement shining through from his friends. But instead, all he got from them was harsh, critical, demeaning, condemning sermons. Here's an example of how a man becomes a friend by helping a stranger. A man becomes a friend by helping a stranger. Can you imagine flying in a 6-passenger, 1-engine plane, and there's a pilot and there's 2 passengers. And as you're flying along from the Bahamas back toward Florida, the pilot says, I don't feel well. Then all of a sudden he leans over onto the control board and causes the plane to start descending rapidly. What are you going to do? Well, one of 2 passengers, one jumps from the back over some seats. He gets up there and he gets to the pilot. He moves him off the chair. He hops on there. He gets the headphones on. He makes contact with the traffic control, and then one of the traffic controllers is a part-time pilot instructor. He's able to get on there, and he said, his name was Robert, said, I just knew I had to keep him calm. Point him to the runway and tell him how to reduce the power so he can descend to land. Did I tell you that the guy's only experience in a plane was being a passenger? I don't think I mentioned it. This guy's not a pilot. He didn't know anything. He's just a passenger. And so he's calling air traffic control, and they have a guy there, a part-time flight instructor, and he is directing him. Robert did keep Darren. That was his name, the passenger. He kept him calm, gave him instructions until the wheels touched the runway. And remembers telling him, you look great, you're a little fast. What I want you to do is grab the throttle, just pull that back a little bit because you need to be slowed down. Well, Darren followed his vital instructions. Robert met his new student, Darren, and he declared he's the best student I've had. And in return, Darren gave him a big hug and thanked him, and he admitted that he just wanted to get back to his pregnant wife. That's what he wanted. And so as the plane needed to slow down for a safe landing, we often need to slow down in life and know that God is with us. God says, be quiet and know that I am God. I will be supreme over all the nations. I will be supreme in the earth. The Lord all-powerful is with us. Psalm 46. So in all the turmoil, the pain, the suffering, the loss, the confusion, Job did slow down. And he declared his convictions. This is one reason that I think that fortified his perseverance, to keep him from giving up. His friends should have been helpful as Robert was to Darren, but they weren't. And so Job said, I know that my Redeemer lives. Let's apply those words to ourselves in whatever circumstance we're facing right now. And we can take that same statement, I know that my Redeemer lives. I is a personal conviction that we can have. I'm not speaking for you. You can't speak for me. I know. And although God has not spoken to us directly, He speaks to us through His Word, through His creation, through what we just experienced, through the Lord's Supper, that we were communing with Him. He was with us in all of this. We were together, communion, and also with the Lord. The Lord's Supper. So I know that that's a personal relationship with Him. Not my relationship, my. I know that my Redeemer, He's the one that paid the price for us on the cross. He was the one that was resurrected for us, not us. Him, and He was the only one that could do it for us. And so I know that my Redeemer, He's the one that paid the price. He's the one that sets us free from sin. I know that my Redeemer lives. And though He doesn't speak to us directly, He lives. He gives us hope. He encourages us through His Word, through His people, through His principles, through His promises. And also through prayer. We are communing, we are talking with someone who lives and has always lived. And He helps us through all those things that I mentioned, and sometimes in some unexplained ways, through providentially. So I know that my Redeemer lives. The Lord's brother James wrote, as you know, we count as blessed those who have persevered. You have heard of Job's perseverance and have seen what the Lord finally brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. James chapter 5. One reason for his perseverance, I think, was his conviction that he had, I know that my Redeemer lives. So let's not jump to conclusions about other people like his so-called friends did with him. Let's be patient. Let's be understanding. And let's realize that our Lord lives. Our